Sure. Thanks, Dave. First of all, it's what you fear when you watch them on tape, that they get some confidence in how difficult they can be to guard if they get the threes going, specifically from the 5 position, that it's going to create some matchup problems and force us to play smaller, and really kind of takes our advantage out of play for the most part. But credit to them, they watched them against everybody else, and they've done a lot of the same things, especially to Nebraska and Creighton, the 2 other high majors they've played. And we gave them some confidence early, and that's not all on the 4s and 5s defensively. I didn't think our perimeter was as physical and as tight as we needed to be, and we made some mistakes that forced rotations and scrambles, and then they'd start banging some threes in and get some confidence, and it kind of grows. But I thought second half we were better. Obviously the smaller lineup, I think, helped with that, trying to minimize some of that. And we're able to find a way when we were not at our best, and a unique team to have to try to run around with and guard. And then obviously the plays there at the end, Kamari McGee did an awesome job of switching on the little pistol action screen and standing that offensive player up, and then Blackwell going to get the rebound and finishing it out. So good teams, as I told them downstairs, good teams find a way when things aren't always clicking and things become unorthodox, as it was tonight. So we'll learn from it and keep getting better, and move on to the next one.
Mark up front, got a question?
Just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, for stress there in the second half. Blackwell was, you needed some offense, and he was
right.
The one guy delivering for you. What did you see in terms of how he was getting that, and what kind of stood out to you about him in the second half?
Yeah, he got downhill. I thought he was in the paint, playing off 2 feet, got to the free throw line, took advantage of opportunities. I think us playing a little smaller helped that. We started slipping more screens with our 4s and 5s and created driving gaps and double gaps, and he was able to take advantage of those. And then he did a good job when he got in there, played off 2 and finished, and then got fouled, a few times as well. So I thought he was much more, that first half he was a step behind things defensively. Second half I thought he was better in that regard for the most part, and then offensively, obviously he put us on his back there for a while in the second half.
Michael?
Doing things like getting that defensive rebound at the end of the game is kind of how he earned minutes last year. Like when he molds that with the type of scoring that he was able to bring, I guess, like what's his potential ceiling as a player, just when that finally comes together?
Well, you expect that all the time. I think in terms of the rebounding, that's how he got on the floor as a freshman, was defending and rebounding and being, making good decisions with the ball. And then the scoring came as he got more experience. So, I think for him, he doesn't get rattled. I got after him a little bit at halftime about defensively. I thought he had some miscues, and I thought he was better in the second half, and he responded. So, not only responded defensively, and I would say that last rebound at the end was a grown man's rebound, the way he went and got it amongst traffic, and we needed it. So those are the things that, he has a DNA of making winning plays, and that obviously made several of them in the second half, but that one at the end to go get the rebound, along with Kamari's, ability to force him to take a really tough fade away, were plays when the game was on the line.
Way in the back there, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, Blackwell 30 points tonight. Obviously Friday, John Tonja 41. I think Klesmet a couple weeks ago at 26.
Mm-hmm.
What does it say about the team? How nice is it able to have multiple guys that can carry a load?
Yeah, that's I think the beauty of this team. I think it's the strength of this team. I felt all along that we have a lot of guys that could score, and to be able to find, whether it's a matchup or whether it's somebody that has a hot hand or what the defense presents. I think it was a hard game for Winter and Crowell to play in, just because of the size and the mobility and the shooting, and that takes their ability obviously off the table, but to score for us. But it's nice when you have a lot of options, and I've got a lot of guys who can go too, and good teams find ways and have different guys, pick them up each night. It doesn't necessarily, we don't have to depend on 1 or 2 guys. We have a lot of guys that are unselfish and are pretty skilled.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned how you adjusted to their size with Winter and Crowell. Was that something that you knew you might have to do coming into the game? Did you see that from their footage?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's something, we've done that in the past, and it's not anything new. It's just you get a feel for the game and what's given us trouble, and that we were better when we went smaller with Tanjay at the 4, Amos some at the 4, Gilmore at the 5. We were gonna go with Amos at the 5, but then Gilmore's experience in those situations, I think, puts him in a position where he's a valuable asset in these type of games where we have to, it's such a blender, so to speak, offensively with what we have to guard, and his experience and mobility, and you know, he's like sized, you know, they're playing small, so we have to go match it. You don't want to have to do that, but when you're playing from behind and trading baskets, I felt if we could get out and get ahead of them, our size would become more of an advantage. But you know, obviously they got out to a great start, so it you know, put us in a position where we had to match what they were doing.
Nick?
Greg, you touched on it a little bit there, but just how does kind of some of Carter's, you know, maybe positional versatility, especially at the point of attack, help? And how is he also representative of what you talked about last week, just playing for the front of that jersey, not worrying about numbers?
Yeah, I mean, he's bounced on and off scholarship his whole career here, came in as a walk-on, and just loves the program. You know, obviously his DNA goes really, really deep in our coaching tree with his dad playing for Poe and Platteville, but you know, so he's grown up around it. He understands it, and he's a consummate team player. And the versatility, the positional versatility, the ability to switch and keep the ball in front of us. And I think the biggest thing with him, Nick, is the experience. You know, he's been there. He has a leg up on what Zay just hasn't had, that experience in how we defend. And it's harder for Steve and Nolan because they're bigger, and you know, their advantage is being 7 feet. Their disadvantage is the ability to move and have to recover to shooters and that type of thing. So you like to have those tweener type guys for these games, that when you have to match that type of offensive flow, it helps you somewhat get it under control a little bit better.
Coach, you answered some of my question about Xavier Amos. What are you liking about him now with this impact? Seems like he's getting more comfortable with the system and finding other ways to impact the game.
Yeah, I think he's probably more comfortable offensively right now than he is defensively. And in these type of games, are just the experience that he doesn't have shows a little bit more, where it's more instinctive for Gilmore to switch a screen. If you're a little hesitant and you're unsure, then you end up with a shoulder turned on you and somebody's driving downhill when you should have stayed and stopped the ball, or you left too early. So I think for him, for Xavier, it's just a matter of continue to get the experience and play aggressive, play physical. And when you can do that, then you can live with mistakes if you're playing aggressive. But what I see with him defensively a little bit is a little hesitant. He's not quite sure, and that's something that as time goes on, he'll get better because he'll get more experience with it.
We've got 2 more questions for Coach Reed here and there.
There's so much potential advantage with the 2 big lineup. Are there ways to defend better against teams that can go small with those 2 guys on the floor, so that it becomes a mismatch in a positive way, I guess, for you guys?
Yeah, I think it started with, as mentioned before, the perimeter I didn't feel did a great job of helping their big buddies out, the 4s and 5s. We got back cut. We got rejected on a ball screen that set up a backside crackback on Klesmit's guy. There were multiple, and I didn't think we were aggressive enough at the point of attack on the 5. We were back and not putting enough ball pressure on at times on the perimeter. I didn't think we were aggressive enough in terms of hedging screens, even off ball when they're using the 5 in the middle of the floor. You know, and I think part of it's they bang a couple threes and it makes our bigs a little tentative, like they're worried about what's going to happen next, so they're reacting rather than playing instinctive. So it's hard. I mean, that's the great equalizer in college basketball, is the 3-point line. That's why you see what you see when we get to March. Nobody makes a big deal about it now or talks about it much nationally, but why doesn't Oakland beat a Kentucky, right? It's the matchup problem, running around trying to chase shooters and talking to you know, their coach after the game. I'm like, yeah, you guys are hard to guard. He goes, yeah, we got all these little guys running around, and they know that's their advantage. They're trying to get, and when you let them get some confidence going and you know, see a few shots go in, then that cart starts rolling downhill a little bit. So the biggest way is to, you know, not have those breakdowns where our 5s and 4s are scrambling and having to cover up dribble penetration, and now we're late getting out to a 5, or we're coming out with our hands down. So being more physical at the start, I think, and more impose our will better from that standpoint. Like I said, it's the bigs have to, you know, continue to learn and get better in that regard, but our perimeter can do a better job, and that'll help our bigs out. But there's gonna be times, we've done this a lot, where you have to go small. It's not an indictment on Nolan and Steve. It's just, that's credit to them for trying to flip it on us and create an advantage and spread us out and see if we were gonna go big or go small or not. If you stay big, you're gonna be in trouble. And we had to find a way to negate some of that, what they were creating.
No question, Coach.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about the loss of Chucky Hepburn and how you had to assess your guards after that, and you didn't exactly replace him in the starting lineup with a point guard, even though Kamari plays starter level minutes. I'm just curious of what you're liking or not liking from the playmaking from the starting guards as well as all the guards on your team.
I mean, it's a game by game basis. You know, I didn't like the decision we made at the end of the half when they went zone. We hesitated and we had something called. So I'll talk to John about that. Continue to go with what we had, even though they went zone. We were okay. It was good for zone or man. That's a little bit of an experience thing there with a point guard that hasn't maybe been is in many of those situations. So, but I think for the most part, you know, I thought they made decent decisions tonight. You know, we had a little flurry there in the second half where we tossed it around a little bit, but for the most part, I thought we pushed the ball in transition. That's an advantage for us. We're pretty good in transition. They know it, they like it, and we're able to do some good things in transition. So regardless of whether they're a point guard or a 5-man, I expect good decisions, right? So that accountability and responsibility when you have the ball in your hands doesn't diminish. You don't get more turnovers just because you're a 5-man than point guards do. So just be responsible with the ball, and you gotta play it too, right? You can't overthink it and become handcuffed mentally. I still want them aggressive and playing off 2 feet and making good decisions, and I think for the most part we did a decent job of that.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate you.